Was the success of Pawn Stars built on secrets too heavy to carry? That unsettling rumor has haunted Rick Harrison's legacy, especially after the devastating death of his son Adam and the shocking arrest of Austin Chumlee Russell. Whispers spread quickly, blending fact and speculation, painting a picture of tragedy, scandal, and unanswered questions. Some insist there is more to the story than what cameras ever revealed, while others see it as the unavoidable cost of fame in Las Vegas. The reality is that one thread leads to another. Rick's grief as a father collides with the image of a tough businessman who built an empire. Adam's death casts a long shadow, leaving questions about how much pain was hidden behind closed doors. And then comes Chumlee, the comic relief of the show, whose sudden fall into legal turmoil turned laughter into shock. These are not isolated stories but intertwined events that shaped how fans see Pawn Stars today. From the beginning, Pawn Stars was more than just a TV show. It was about family, friendship, and the strange treasures people brought into a neon-lit shop. Millions watched as Rick, Corey, and the late Richard, Old Man Harrison turned haggling into entertainment. Chumlee, with his goofy charm, became the fan favorite, and for years the show felt untouchable. But away from the bright lights, darker currents were moving. Adam, Rick's other son who rarely appeared on screen, struggled silently with addiction. Chumlee's wild lifestyle spiraled until it crashed headfirst into police reports. Behind the laughs and deals, reality was far more complicated. The rumor of Adam's hidden battles surfaced long before his tragic passing. Few outside the family knew how serious things were, though those closest to Rick spoke of his constant worry. He had already faced the loss of his father, the old man, in 2018, and that wound had never fully healed. Now whispers began to circulate. Would Rick one day face an even more unbearable tragedy with his son? Sadly, in January 2024, those fears turned into reality when Adam died at just 39 years old. Official reports later tied his death to fentanyl and methamphetamine. But in the public's mind, the story became larger, charged with rumors of family silence, hidden struggles, and generational pain. Fans asked why Adam never appeared on the show like his brother Corey. Some suggested Rick kept him away intentionally, fearing his battles with addiction would tarnish the polished image of the shop. Others believed Adam himself rejected the spotlight, unwilling to share his demons with millions of viewers. Whatever the truth, his absence created a vacuum where rumor thrived. And when his death was announced, the vacuum exploded into speculation about what had really gone on behind closed doors. Chumlee's case added fuel to the fire. In 2016, police raided his Las Vegas home, uncovering drugs, weapons, and sparking accusations that left fans stunned. For a man who had been the clown of the show, the loyal friend who never seemed to take life too seriously, the headlines felt unreal. Was Chumlee just another reality star crushed under sudden fame? Or was there something darker about the Pawn Stars circle? For years afterward, fans kept replaying those questions, linking Chumlee's troubles to the broader story of a franchise that seemed cursed by success. Rick's silence only deepened the mystery. He rarely spoke publicly about Adam's struggles before his death, and even afterward he chose his words carefully, focusing on grief but leaving much unsaid. With Chumlee, he distanced himself without turning his back completely, a delicate balance between loyalty and reputation. This silence gave room for speculation to flourish. Was Rick protecting his family, his business, or both? Could it be that Pawn Stars had become a stage where the brightest smiles were also masks hiding unbearable weight? Behind these questions lies the larger rumor that the empire of Pawn Stars was never as solid as it looked. Yes, the shop was real, and yes, the family built something iconic. But the price of fame seemed to demand sacrifices, privacy, stability, and sometimes even loved ones. Adam's tragedy and Chumlee's arrest became symbols of that hidden price. For fans who once saw the show as lighthearted fun, it was a sobering reminder that reality television is, after all, reality. As we open this story, three threads pull us forward. Rick, the patriarch, caught between fame and fatherhood, carrying the unbearable loss of a son. Adam, the hidden Harrison, whose death forced everyone to confront what had been kept in the shadows. And Chumlee, the unlikely star-turned cautionary tale, who went from laughter to handcuffs in the blink of an eye. Together, these stories reveal a world far more complicated than a TV negotiation over a rare coin. Every rumor has a root, and every silence hides a truth. In the next part, we will dive deeper into Adam's life, the private battles Rick tried to help him fight, and the last days before tragedy struck. We will also revisit the shocking fall of Chumlee, tracing how his arrest reshaped the narrative of Pawn Stars forever. What connects them all is the haunting question that lingers still. Was the empire of Pawn Stars built not just on gold and history, but also on pain and secrets too heavy to bear? Adam Harrison's life was always described in whispers, never in the bold headlines his father commanded. Unlike his brother Corey, Adam stayed mostly out of the Pawn Stars spotlight, but those who knew him spoke of a kind man who struggled with demons that never let him rest. Rick tried again and again to pull him back from the edge. Rehab centers, private talks, even tough love, nothing seemed strong enough to break the cycle. By the time Adam turned 30, the weight of addiction had already carved scars into his life. For Rick, who had spent decades building an empire in Las Vegas, this was the one battle money and fame could not conquer. The truth emerged in January 2024, when Adam's death was confirmed. He was only 39 years old. The official cause pointed to fentanyl and methamphetamine, two substances that have claimed countless lives in recent years. Fans were shocked, not only because of the tragedy but because many had not even realized Rick had another son beyond Corey. The revelation hit like a double blow. The existence of a hidden Harrison and the devastating loss that accompanied the discovery. This absence from the show fueled rumors that Rick had intentionally shielded Adam from the cameras. Some insisted it was an act of protection. Others believed it was to hide a shameful secret. In reality, Adam simply never sought fame, and his struggles made public exposure an even heavier burden. Rick, usually so confident in front of the cameras, spoke about his son with raw pain after the news broke. He admitted that Adam had fought addiction for years, and that he never imagined this would be the end. His words echoed the helplessness of thousands of parents who have watched loved ones slip away to opioids. Fans who once only saw Rick as a shrewd negotiator now saw him as a grieving father. Yet even in grief, questions swirled. Was Adam's death something Rick had long feared? Did the fame and demands of Pawn Stars distance father and son more than anyone knew? Rumors turned those questions into dramatic theories, some saying the pressures of the family business worsened Adam's path, others insisting he was pushed aside deliberately. At the same time, the story of Chumlee resurfaced in people's minds. Back in 2016, his arrest had already rattled fans. Police found drugs and firearms in his Las Vegas home, and suddenly, the goofy sidekick of the shop was facing charges that could have ended his career completely. For many, Chumlee was the symbol of innocence on the show, the one who brought laughter when negotiations got tense. Seeing him in handcuffs broke that image. Rumors spread quickly. Was Chumlee secretly living a double life? Was his downfall connected in any way to the Harrisons? Fans connected dots that were never truly there, turning his personal mistakes into part of a larger, darker narrative around the Pawn Stars empire. Chumlee's legal battle eventually ended with probation and mandatory counseling, but his reputation had changed forever. Even when he returned to the show, the jokes never landed quite the same for some viewers. They remembered the mugshot, the headlines, the fall from grace. Rumors persisted, suggesting he was only tolerated on the program to keep fans engaged, that his relationship with Rick had cooled behind the cameras. Others argued that Rick saw Chumlee as another son and refused to abandon him completely, despite the damage done. What remained clear was that Pawn Stars would never again seem as carefree as before. The tragic parallel between Adam and Chumlee haunted fans. One was blood, lost to drugs. The other was a friend, nearly lost to the law. Both stories unfolded against the backdrop of a reality show that had become a cultural phenomenon. People began to wonder if fame itself had played a role. Pawn Stars turned everyday men into global celebrities, exposed to wealth, temptation, and the pressure to entertain millions. Could it be that such exposure was never meant for ordinary people? That behind every laugh and every successful deal, there was a cost nobody wanted to acknowledge? Rick's public image became more complex. For years he had been the hard-nosed businessman, a man who could calculate the value of an antique in seconds and drive the hardest bargain. Now fans saw him as a grieving father who had lost one son and nearly lost a family friend to scandal. The rumor that Rick had built his empire on secrets grew louder. Some claimed he had sacrificed family for fame. Others argued he had done everything he could to protect his loved ones, but that the world never sees the battles fought in silence. The truth, as always, seemed to sit somewhere in the middle. What cannot be denied is that Adam's death changed Rick forever. In interviews, he no longer spoke only of business or success. He talked about the dangers of fentanyl, about how easily lives are lost, and about the grief that never goes away. He began to use his platform not just to sell entertainment, but to raise awareness of a crisis that had hit his own home. This transformation added a new layer to his public persona, but also fed more rumors. Was Rick's openness now a way to heal, or a way to protect the brand by controlling the narrative? Meanwhile, Chumlee tried to rebuild his life. He stayed out of major trouble after his probation, and even leaned into humor about his past mistakes. But the shadow of that arrest never fully disappeared. For fans, the link between Adam's death and Chumlee's arrest became symbolic, both reminders that behind the Pawn Stars brand there were fragile human beings. It was no longer possible to see the show as a harmless escape. Every laugh, every deal, every episode carried the weight of those real-life struggles. Rumors grew more elaborate as time passed. Some claimed that Adam's absence from the show was a deliberate decision by producers who feared audiences would learn of his problems. Others whispered that Chumlee's arrest had threatened to shut the show down entirely, forcing Rick to use his influence to protect the brand. None of these claims were ever confirmed, but once released into the public, they spread endlessly. Fans online traded theories late into the night, turning fragments of truth into sweeping narratives. In the world of reality television, rumor can feel just as powerful as fact. By 2025, Pawn Stars remained a fixture on television, still drawing viewers who loved the antiques, the history, and the family dynamic. But for those who followed closely, the show no longer represented just business deals. It had become a saga of triumph and tragedy, loyalty and betrayal, laughter and loss. At its center was Rick Harrison, a man both celebrated and haunted, trying to carry the weight of an empire while mourning a son and protecting a friend who had stumbled. The rumors around him were not just stories, they were reflections of how deeply the public had tied their own hopes and fears to his life. The question that lingers is whether these tragedies are isolated or part of a larger pattern. Did the fame of Pawn Stars expose vulnerabilities that would have remained hidden otherwise? Or are Adam and Chumlee's stories simply human struggles magnified by the spotlight? These are the questions that keep rumors alive, questions without simple answers. If you ever laughed at one of Chumlee's silly comments or admired Rick's sharp wit during a negotiation, imagine how different those moments feel now, knowing the shadows that hung in the background. The death of Adam Harrison did not just touch his family, it rippled through the entire community of fans who had followed Pawn Stars for years. When the news first broke, many people were stunned to learn that Rick had another son beyond Corey. Adam had been almost invisible to the public, and that invisibility made the tragedy heavier. It forced fans to confront the fact that what they thought they knew about the Harrison family was incomplete. The discovery opened the door for endless speculation, and soon the rumor mills filled with theories about why Adam had stayed away from the cameras. Some said Rick wanted to shield him, others whispered he had been cast aside because of his struggles. The truth was less clear, buried in the complexities of family dynamics and the cruel hold of addiction. Rick spoke with a raw honesty after Adam's passing, describing how many times he had tried to help his son. He admitted that Adam's addiction had been a constant battle, that he had gone through multiple stints in rehab, and that every glimmer of hope seemed to end in relapse. These confessions humanized Rick in a way the show never had. The tough negotiator who never blinked in a deal was suddenly revealed as a vulnerable father, powerless against forces he could not control. Fans who had only seen him through the lens of television realized that behind the confident exterior lived a man carrying deep pain. And with that realization came more rumors. Was Rick's silence about Adam all those years a way to protect him, or was it to protect the brand? At the same time, old wounds in the Pawn Stars universe resurfaced. Chumlee's arrest in 2016 was dragged back into the spotlight as people connected dots between his troubles and Adam's fate. The image of Chumlee being led away by police in Las Vegas felt even darker in hindsight, now that Adam's death had cast a new shadow on the Pawn Stars family. For many, the show no longer seemed like lighthearted entertainment, but a reflection of how fame and excess can devour lives. Rumors even claimed that the environment around the shop itself encouraged reckless living, though no proof ever surfaced. What was undeniable was that two of the closest people tied to Rick Harrison had faced devastating consequences, one in prison and one in the grave. Chumlee's fall from grace had once shocked fans because of the contrast between his public persona and the charges against him. Known for being goofy and fun-loving, he suddenly stood accused of drug possession and weapons violations. The case ended with probation, counseling, and community service, but the damage to his reputation lingered. Returning to the show did not erase the memory of the headlines, and for many viewers, every new scene with Chumlee carried the ghost of that scandal. Rick's decision to keep him close sparked more debate. Was it loyalty, forgiveness, or simply a way to keep ratings stable? Rumors suggested all three, depending on who was telling the story. Meanwhile, Adam's story became a tragic cautionary tale. Fentanyl had claimed another victim, and Rick used his grief to speak about the opioid crisis in America. He talked about how easily lives are lost, how quickly hope can vanish, and how addiction can devastate entire families. His words resonated with those who had lived similar battles, but they also invited cynicism from others who saw them as attempts to control the narrative. Some fans believe Rick had always kept Adam's issues in the shadows to avoid public scrutiny, and only after his death did he open up. That perception deepened the rumor that the Pawn Stars empire was carefully managed not just on screen but behind the scenes, with truths hidden until they could no longer be concealed. What complicates the story further is the way the public consumes reality television. Pawn Stars was built on the idea of authenticity, the idea that what you saw in the shop was real, unscripted, and raw. Fans trusted that illusion, forgetting that the lives of the cast were far more complicated than the deals on screen. When Adam died and Chumlee was arrested, the cracks in that illusion became impossible to ignore. Rumors filled the gap, feeding the belief that there were many more secrets waiting to surface. Were there other struggles among the cast? Were there deals made to keep certain truths away from the cameras? In the absence of clear answers, speculation thrived. Rick's role in all of this was paradoxical. On one hand, he was the patriarch, the steady hand that guided the show through years of success. On the other, he was a grieving father and a man forced to stand by a friend in legal trouble. The rumors painted him as both hero and villain, protector and opportunist. Some admired him for standing by Chumlee, others accused him of protecting business interests over family. With Adam, the rumors were even more painful, suggesting he had distanced himself from his son out of shame or fear. Rick never fully addressed those claims, leaving a silence that spoke louder than words. For fans who loved Pawn Stars, the show itself began to feel different. Every negotiation, every laugh, every moment between Rick, Corey, and Chumlee carried a hidden weight. They saw Adam's absence in the background, they remembered Chumlee's mugshot, and they wondered what else had been kept from view. The store in Las Vegas, once just a quirky tourist stop, now felt like the stage for a drama filled with triumph and tragedy. The very name Pawn Stars no longer symbolized just antiques and deals, but also rumors, scandals, and loss. The deeper question is whether these events were isolated or inevitable. Did the fame and sudden wealth that came with Pawn Stars push Adam and Chumlee toward darker paths, or would those struggles have existed regardless? Fame magnifies everything, turning personal battles into public spectacles. Adam's death became headline news, Chumlee's arrest turned into a national story, and Rick's grief became a matter of public discussion. For ordinary families, these tragedies might have played out quietly. For the Harrisons, they became part of their legacy, tied forever to the show. And yet, even with so much pain, Pawn Stars continued. Rick showed up to film, Corey kept negotiating, Chumlee returned, and the empire survived. That resilience fascinated fans and fueled more speculation. Was it strength, or was it business? Was Rick pushing forward out of necessity, or was he burying his grief in work? The cameras never captured those answers, but every episode reminded viewers that life in Las Vegas is a mix of light and shadow, gold and dust. The more one looks at the story of Adam and Chumlee, the more it feels like two sides of the same coin. One life lost, another nearly lost, both tied to a family that became famous for turning coins into history lessons. That symmetry is haunting, and it is why the rumors continue to swirl. To this day, fans debate what really happened, what was hidden, and what might still remain untold. Now think back to the last time you watched Pawn Stars. Did you laugh at Chumlee's antics, or admire Rick's sharp business sense? Can you imagine how different those moments look now, knowing the tragedies that linger behind them? Was the Pawn Stars empire really hiding dark secrets behind the counters of the gold and silver pawn shop? That question has echoed louder since January 2024, when Adam Harrison, Rick's rarely seen son, lost his life at just 39 years old. The speculation grew even more tangled when old headlines about Chumlee's arrest resurfaced, blending grief with scandal and pushing fans to believe the show was carrying a curse. But when all the rumors are stripped away, what remains is a story of family, struggle, mistakes, and survival. Adam's absence from the show fueled countless theories, but the reality was simple and heartbreaking. He battled addiction for years, and Rick tried repeatedly to help him, guiding him into rehabilitation, giving him support, and never letting go of hope. The official cause of Adam's death was confirmed as fentanyl and methamphetamine toxicity, part of a devastating opioid epidemic that has claimed thousands of lives across the United States. There was no conspiracy to erase him from the show. There was no deliberate hiding of a secret child. The truth is that Adam preferred a private life, and his struggles made public exposure nearly impossible. His death was not a scripted plot twist, but the painful end of a fight he could not win. For Rick, the loss reshaped everything. He has spoken openly about his heartbreak, saying that no parent should ever bury a child. He now uses his platform to raise awareness about fentanyl, hoping to prevent other families from enduring what he has endured. The rumor that Rick sacrificed his son for the sake of the show collapses under the weight of this reality. What actually happened was far more human and far more tragic. Adam's life was taken by an epidemic far larger than television or fame. Chumlee's arrest, too, has been distorted by rumor. In 2016, he was indeed taken into custody after police found drugs and weapons in his Las Vegas home. At the time, it shocked fans who saw him only as the lovable goofball of Pawn Stars. Some even speculated that he would spend years in prison, or that the show would collapse under scandal. But those predictions never came true. Chumlee accepted responsibility, avoided prison by taking a plea deal, completed probation, and returned to work. Today he remains part of Pawn Stars, having rebuilt much of his life and reputation. The rumor that he is still incarcerated is false. He is a man who stumbled, paid his price, and moved forward. Together, Adam's tragedy and Chumlee's scandal revealed how quickly fame can turn into a magnifying glass. In the glare of that magnifying glass, every misstep, every loss, every silence becomes amplified. Fans imagine dark cover-ups and conspiracies, but the truth is simpler and sadder. One man lost his battle with addiction. Another made mistakes that led to a courtroom. And Rick Harrison, the patriarch, carried both burdens while trying to keep his family and business together. Pawn Stars continues to this day, still drawing millions of viewers who love the deals, the antiques, and the dynamic between Rick, Corey, and Chumlee. But for those who know the deeper story, the show carries an added weight. Every laugh, every sharp negotiation, every silly moment is framed by the knowledge of what has been endured outside the cameras. The show is no longer just entertainment. It is also a reminder of resilience and of the hidden cost of fame. Why did the rumors spread so far? Partly because people find it easier to believe in secret scandals than to face the quiet cruelty of addiction. Partly because reality television invites the illusion that we know everything about the people on screen. When that illusion breaks, imagination fills the gaps. Rick Harrison's silence about Adam for so long allowed rumors to grow unchecked. Chumlee's larger-than-life persona made his fall more shocking and more tempting for gossip. Together they created a narrative that was juicier than the truth, but not more accurate. The truth is that Adam's death was a private tragedy, and Chumlee's arrest was a legal case with a resolution years ago. The rest is noise. But noise has power, and it shaped how millions see Pawn Stars today. For Rick, Corey, and Chumlee, moving forward means carrying both the grief and the rumors, always aware that fans will interpret silence as mystery. What remains undeniable is Rick Harrison's resilience. He lost his father, Richard "Old Man" Harrison, in 2018. He lost his son Adam in 2024. He endured the near collapse of his show's image during Chumlee's arrest. And yet, he still stands, running the pawn shop, greeting fans and telling stories of history through objects. That resilience is not born of rumor but of lived experience, of survival in the face of blows that would have broken others. Adam Harrison's legacy is not one of shame but of remembrance. His death has already sparked conversations about the opioid epidemic and the hidden battles within families. If there is meaning in his absence from the show, it is that his struggles remind us that fame does not protect anyone from addiction. Chumlee's story, on the other hand, stands as a warning that fame magnifies mistakes, but also proof that redemption is possible when accountability is taken. When fans look back at Pawn Stars, they may remember the deals, the quirky characters, and the treasures that passed through the shop. But they will also remember the moments of silence, the grief in Rick's eyes, the weight behind the laughter. The rumors may continue, but the truth remains stronger. This was not a story of conspiracies but of human frailty. In the end, Pawn Stars is not just about antiques and negotiations. It is about life and death, about mistakes and second chances, about the heavy price of being known by millions. For Rick, the empire he built carries both gold and shadows, triumph and tragedy. That is the real story, the one hidden beneath the rumors. So the question has an answer at last. Did Rick Harrison lose his son to something darker than the public knew? Yes, but not because of secrets or cover-ups, because of addiction, a battle countless families face. Is Chumlee still in prison? No, he stumbled and returned, still standing with the Harrisons. The rumors were louder than the facts, but the truth deserves the final word. And maybe that truth is more powerful than the rumor ever was. If this story made you feel the weight behind the smiles on Pawn Stars, drop a like right now and show some love. And remember to subscribe, because the biggest rumors and the deepest truths are still waiting to be revealed.